Welcome, mortals. They say curiosity killed the cat, but sometimes the cat just kills you. This week, we're diving into the legendary growls and glowing eyes of the Wampus cat, the elusive creature haunting the Appalachian foothills. After that spine-tingling hunt, we'll then curl up with the incredibly rich and often otherworldly beliefs surrounding felines, spanning from ancient Egypt to prehistoric tribal lore. From cryptid to deity, prepare to reconsider every purr and hiss on the Parallax Podcast.
Hi, Willow.
Hey, Karisa. It is so fitting that we are talking about cats, not only since we are crazy cat ladies, but also because I have my black cat Impy curled up on my lap right now. Mm-hmm. She's here to talk cats with us.
Yeah, Dylan, he wants a black cat. I'm like, well, when we move to Boston, we can get a black cat to symbolize we've arrived near Salem.
You've arrived near exactly the cat distribution system will deliver as soon as you get to Boston. That should be like a friendly gift for showing up, being like, here's your welcome gift. You get a cat.
Here's
your welcome cat.
Yes, exactly. All right, so today we're going to be talking about the Wampus cat, and Willow is going to give us the scoop on that cryptid. We're going to talk about, over the podcast, we're going to kind of pick up some cryptids from different states. And so today we're going to talk about North Carolina. We're going to do the Wampus cat because we like cats.
We like cats, yeah. And the great thing about the Wampus cat in North Carolina, the Wampus cat, I said in the opening here, is a cryptid from multiple different versions of the folklore, so to speak, along the Appalachian Mountains. However, when I was doing my research, I did find that Tennessee and North Carolina are the two states that have the most sightings. Mm-hmm. And I settled with North Carolina because I wanted to. Like, there really was no particular reason why I settled with North Carolina. I've got family up there. Shout out to Madison, who is in North Carolina, hopefully listening to this episode. That is the only reason why I chose North Carolina as the state for the Wampus cat. But we are going to go through all 50 states through the course of the podcast. So this is our first one, the first state of North Carolina.
All right. Take it away.
All right. In the mountains and foothills of North Carolina, there are long stretches of forest where visibility disappears within a few feet of the road. Dense hardwoods, why did I write this?
What?
Wrote this word.
Rhododendron?
Rhododendron.
Mm-hmm.
I love the plant. Mm-hmm. I don't know why I wrote it in there. It is in North Carolina, and I saw it with my own eyes. And they're beautiful, and I cannot pronounce their name. But those thickets and uneven terrain make certain areas difficult to access even during daylight. At night, those same areas become nearly impenetrable. It is within this landscape, particularly in western North Carolina and counties bordering the Appalachian Mountains, that reports of a large unidentified cat-like animal have been recorded for over a century. The name most commonly associated with these sightings is the Wampus cat. Also known, again, in North Carolina, they call it the Wampus cat, but it may also go by the name of Galliwampus, which I really like, or Whistling Wampus, if you'd like some alliteration. But I think Galliwampus might be my favorite. However, for the sake of this episode, it will be the Wampus cat. So let's talk about the early accounts of the Wampus cat, which is right around late 1800s to early 1900s. These are some of the earliest documented reports in North Carolina. Again, they appear in the late 19th century agricultural records and regional newspapers. Farmers at the time reported poultry being killed overnight, and the pattern of these poultry killings was actually pretty consistent. There would be multiple animals. Whoa.
Cats and anal. I think that's the future episode of Salem witch trials, because I know there were cats involved in that, and there were also some cat buttholes in that.
It's and I was really about to say multiple anals killed in a single incident. That sounds really bad. I'm so sorry. Multiple animals were killed in a single incident. Wow. The bodies were left largely uneaten. The injuries were mostly to the neck or upper torso of the animal, and the coops or enclosures were damaged. The predators such as foxes, bobcats, and dogs were known in the region, and the farmers were very familiar with their behaviors, as they would be, given that these are the animals that are most commonly going to be predators to their livestock. Excuse me. However, the killings done by the foxes, bobcats, and dogs didn't always match these patterns that these farmers were seeing. In some reports, the farmers described the tracks that appeared to be feline, but they were larger than a bobcat, and they weren't consistent with cougars, which also had largely disappeared from the region by that time.
And then reappeared in the late 2000s wearing leopard print and red nails and named Karen.
Exactly. They're back. They're back, ladies. The cougars were gone. They came back different. Now, I will say that could mean one of two things. Either these farmers knew exactly what a cougar looked like and they were like, okay, that is not a cougar. Or they didn't actually know what they were looking at when they were like, well, that's definitely not going to be consistent with a cougar, given that they never really saw the tracks of a cougar. They didn't see the high heels, you know. But either way, the term Wampus began appearing in connection with these reports in the early 1900s, particularly in western counties like Cherokee County and Haywood County. In Cherokee County, located at the southwestern edge of North Carolina, accounts of a strange wildcat began appearing in local reporting and oral accounts, and this is more in the early 1900s. Residents described an animal that moved low to the ground, had a long body and exceptionally long tail, appeared heavier and more muscular than a bobcat, and was seen primarily at night. One account describes a farmer who reported losing multiple chickens over several nights. He set traps and remained awake to observe what animal was attacking his chickens. According to his statement, he saw an animal approach the coop but could not identify it clearly. He described its movement as smooth and silent, unlike dogs or foxes. He fired a few shots at the animal but was never able to recover a body. The pattern, attempted identification without recovery, would repeat across decades. By the 1920s and 1930s, reports expanded into Haywood County and surrounding mountain areas. These reports were a little bit more detailed. Several witnesses described hearing vocalizations at night. The sound was described as either a scream or a yowl, and they would oftentimes compare this to the sound of a woman's scream. It would usually be followed by lower growling tone after this scream tone, shall we call it. The livestock losses continued, and the farmers reported goats and chickens killed under similar conditions, with the damage to the throat, minimal consumption, and multiple animals being killed in one event. Wildlife officials at the time typically attributed these incidents to known predators, most commonly bobcats. And I looked this up because I knew you were going to ask. Bobcats are known to kill multiple animals and not eat them. It is called caching or caching, where they will kill multiple animals, especially if their prey is in abundance, like during the spring or fall. And they will either take the carcass and move it to somewhere where they can hide it. Sometimes they'll just leave it because they have remarkable memories to know where they have left a body where they can go back and eat it. It is possible that some of these incidents could realistically be attributed to bobcats. I don't think these incidents in as high of a number as what they were happening is quite realistic for the behavior of a bobcat, but there could be a few that could be attributed to a bobcat that was like, look at all these chickens. I must eat them all.
You also have to attach the folklore amplification of this. Like, when people tell stories and they retell stories over campfires, the folklore grows and expands and things shift. More toes get put on there, more legs get put on there.
More toes get put on, more toe beans.
Yes.
Which, now that you brought up the folklore, this actually is a fantastic segue. I have more on the sightings, but let me take a quick moment to tell you a little bit about what the Wampus cat is. Let's talk about some of that folklore. Let's tell you what it is said to look like. There's actually a few versions of the legend that comes from Indian folklore about the Wampus cat. One is that a woman named Running Deer wanted to take down an evil spirit. I'm not going to pronounce this correctly, but perhaps Ewa? which I think is also in Avatar, but anyway.
Yeah.
Oh, look, there's your cat too. We both have our cats here. Which one is that?
You're talking about my ancestors.
Which one is that?
This is Ori.
Ori, I knew that. She's the one that lets me pet her because we're besties. Anywho, so Awa was the spirit of madness, and Running Deer believed that Awa had driven her husband Standing Bear to madness. So Running Mountain got a booger mask. Is that really how it's booger mask?
Maybe it's Berger.
Berger, because it's Booger, which to me is booger.
Or Bouger?
Bouger? Okay, maybe that's what it is.
We'll go with something more sophisticated sounding.
We'll say Bouger mask, and the spirit of a mountain cat. And that's what she used to defeat Awa, the spirit of madness, becoming the tribe's spirit talker and home protector. Some believe that Running Deer's spirit resides within the Wampus cat. Another legend says that it was a woman who was spying on a sacred ceremony by hiding under the pelts of a mountain lion. And the medicine man who was doing the ceremony punished the woman for spying on him by transforming her into a Wampus cat.
Where have we heard that before?
I know, right?
Sounds like a Yinagalushi.
Yinagalushi, it does. It does.
You've got the hide that she's surrounded, like she's in. You've got the spirit and the elders using their magic and their abilities to transform. Little shapeshifting going on there.
Exactly. And they do, in some legends and some stories, they do believe that the Wampus cat has shapeshifting abilities, that it can turn itself invisible. We're kind of sticking with that legend that we had talked about previously. We're harkening back to a lot of episodes today. Go us.
Especially with the shape of you, with the long legs and the overly sized body, things like that, which is typical of the Yinagalushi.
Yes.
So,
and I believe it's close to the area, not exactly, because in that area, in the Appalachian Mountains, yes, and you would hear more of the, what is the one that happens from cannibalism? Starts with a W.
Although,
Wendigo. There we go.
Yeah.
I got there. Some interpretations of the legend of the Wampus cat suggests that the concept was influenced a little bit by European folklore of shapeshifters and witches, which, again, another big thing that you and I have talked about previously, the folklore of the shapeshifters, like the werewolf and such. So there's always a possibility that some of the Indian folklore was influenced in that way. Now, the Wampus cat itself is often described as a large and fearsome creature with a bobcat's face, but it can often be portrayed too as a mix between a human and a cat. Its most distinctive feature is its glowing yellow eyes. Eyewitnesses also report lots of heavy musculature, a feline body, dark matted fur, a long sinuous tail, and some accounts report too that it has 6 legs, and others also too report that it is a dog/feline hybrid, but that specific report isn't as common. I think that one is more specific to specific regions, if I had to guess. Also, I almost forgot the creepiest thing about it. Among its supernatural abilities, they believe that the Wampus cat emits screams to either attract its prey or to ward off threats.
That happened when we were studying the Yinagalushi as well.
Yes.
The sounds and things like that, trying to attract your dogs and get you to come outside and almost sound like a crying baby, just so you would step outside and then they could take you.
Yeah, so the Wampus cat apparently does that too, you guys.
Yeah,
they're out to get you.
Don't go towards it unless it's someone you know is screaming.
If you hear a scream, don't go towards it.
911.
Call the police. Call the police.
I'm pretty sure there's a screaming cat out here. I ain't checking it out.
Bro, if you call the police and you're like, hey, I heard a scream and I just think it's probably a good idea for someone to check it out, they're not going to be mad at you for saying, I heard a scream and I want to make sure nobody's dying. They will not be mad. Just call the police and stay where you're at. They will also tell you, stay where you're at. Do not go to the scream.
And they're like, we're not coming out either, so you might as well just stay inside.
You just stay inside. Don't do anything. Just stay where you are.
We don't even have the weapons to take care of this kind of thing.
Exactly. All right, so now that we've gone over the lore of the Wampus cat, let's kind of get back into the sightings here. In the 1940s, a driver traveling near, it's either Macon or Macon County, reported one of the more detailed sightings. He was driving along a rural road at night when his headlights illuminated an animal crossing in front of him. He slowed, expecting to see a bobcat. Instead, he described a longer body, a tail extending far behind the animal, shoulders that were very heavily muscled, and a head much broader than expected. The driver stated that the eye shine reflected directly back toward him, appearing more forward-facing rather than angled. And I'll be honest with you, I don't really know what he meant by that. And I was just like, cool. I'll put this detail in there because it's in his account. But like, I don't know what he was trying to, I'm not sure what he was trying to do with that. But like, cool. Because a bobcat has forward-facing eyes because it's a predator. So I digress. Anywho. After a few seconds of its forward-facing...
Like a protruding type thing? Maybe he didn't understand how to use the terminology of protruding?
Okay, that's true. Maybe that's what it is. More like protruding rather than...
Yeah, again, perception and description.
Okay, that would make more sense.
What we see and how we actually describe it may be two different things. Because a lot of times when someone's talking about something, they're describing with the words that's in their
whatever they have in their vocabulary.
Yeah, whatever is in their Rolodex of words. However, it may not be the proper word that you're telling it to. So someone who you're telling it to may have a bigger pool of words, and you're like, what are they using? Like, okay, this is very...
So I was looking at it, I was like, okay, you know what? You said it. I'll put it in here, but buddy, I don't know what you're talking about.
Is that like a third person in video games?
Yeah, is that what it is? I mean, either way, after its forward-facing gaze, it still disappeared off into the brush. And the driver ended up reporting this sighting because of multiple livestock losses in nearby farms. Is what prompted him to go and report that he had seen this animal.
It could also be directional. Think about the fact that if this creature was moving forward but still looking at them forward-facing versus side-eye.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, like looking directly at him.
Right.
And like it stopped, looked directly at him instead of
being like...
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. I like that better too. That is... All right. I think that has solved the mystery of what front meant.
Forward-facing.
Forward-facing. Front... Y'all, it is almost past my bedtime. I worked a full day before coming here to record this episode for you. I'm doing it as a labor of love from the very bottom of my heart.
Not me. Today was my day off. So I enjoyed some cafe organic and spent some time with some of my girls. And then I played video games. So I didn't do much, but have fun.
Go away, Karisa. Go away.
Yeah.
Actually, don't, because we do need to finish this episode. And I do want to know more about the cats. Yes. Go away after we're done, okay? Go away with your fun.
I'm going to go away and play video games after this. What you talking about, girl? I'm
going to go away and go to sleep after this because I work tomorrow.
I don't. I took 3 days off.
I know. I took 3 days off.
All right.
Anyway.
I'm sorry. I'll stop making you sad.
The 1950s. In the 1950s, reports increased across western North Carolina. And I'm so sorry to North Carolina. Y'all have some weirdly named counties because I also cannot pronounce this one very well. But here we go. Including Buncombe or Buncombe County and surrounding areas. Newspapers occasionally reference a mystery cat or a killer wildcat. Farmers reported, like all the other reports previously, repeated poultry killings, enclosures being damaged from above or the side, and animals killed but not eaten. One farmer described finding claw marks on wooden boards higher than expected for a bobcat. Another reported hearing movement at night, but seeing nothing when he investigated. Wildlife officials continue to attribute incidents to known species, but not every case resulted in a confirmed identification. In the 1960s, sightings became more frequently reported by residents rather than just farmers. One account from Buncombe or Buncombe County described a man walking near a wooded property line at dusk. He reported seeing an animal approximately 40 yards away. He described it as larger than a bobcat, lower to the ground than a dog, with an extremely long tail, and moving in a crouched, fluid manner. The animal did not run immediately. Instead, it remained still briefly before turning and disappearing into dense vegetation. The witness emphasized that it did not move like a domestic animal, which I don't think any of us thought that whatever was attacking these livestock animals was domesticated. But I digress. Anywho. Across North Carolina reports, several characteristics appear consistently. I don't know if you've caught on yet. But the fact that the animal is described as cat-like, it is larger than a bobcat but smaller than a cougar, it is long-bodied with a visible tail, it is primarily nocturnal, moves silently and quickly, and is rarely observed for more than a few seconds. The livestock incidents also often include multiple animals being killed, throat or upper body injuries, and minimal feeding on the carcasses. These patterns are noted repeatedly over decades, so the entirety, like the whole span of these reports of the Wampus cat, the patterns of the livestock killings and the reports of what the people described the animal to look like all remained consistent. Through the 1970s and 1980s, sightings continued, though less frequently reported in newspapers. However, these accounts were passed through local communities. Hunters occasionally reported seeing an unidentified animal at dusk or early morning. In several cases, hunters chose not to shoot because they could not confidently identify the species. Wildlife agencies maintained that no unknown large feline species existed in the region. Bobcats were present, and the cougars were considered absent or extremely rare, but no official classification was ever made for a separate animal matching the descriptions in these sightings. And again, there's never been any kind of physical evidence. There's never been any kind of like fur left over. The tracks are occasionally reported, but the soil conditions in the mountainous regions often make them difficult to preserve or analyze accurately. And there's never been any kind of confirmed photograph of the Wampus cat either. There's just multiple reports.
And there's some blurry photos online.
And in the early 1990s and 2000s, occasional reports continued, but they typically came from rural property owners, hunters, or drivers on isolated roads. And their reports never wavered from the same thing that had been reported for years and years and years previously. So that is the Wampus cat. We still don't know if it's if this cryptid has any credence behind it. Now, again, like I said before, it is entirely possible that some of these reports can 100% be attributed to a bobcat or cougar, especially because there are, in every species, you're going to see a random bobcat that's like, that thing is huge. Or you're going to see a random cougar and you're going to be like, that is a really muscular cougar. Like, there's going to be that kind of variation within the species. However, I think what makes this so odd is the fact that when it comes to the livestock killings especially, I think it was just too much for what would be expected of a bobcat that was caching, for example. I think it was just like the amount of killings was just too heavy for bobcat to be killing and then being like, well, I'm going to keep this here so I can come back and eat. It was too much for the population that they had. It was enough to be like, something weird is going on, but not enough to definitively say there must be a different species. It's just enough to be like, something's going on. There's something weird. And they attributed it to the Wampus cat, or the Galliwampus, or the whispering wampus. So there you go, Karissa. Take us down the road of other felines in history.
Well, thank you for giving us the Wampus, a Wampus cat.
You're welcome for the Wampus.
So Willow and I have spent a lot of time living with cats.
Just a little bit.
Today, we decided that it would be fun to talk about the cats, of course. And I'm taking you down a little bit more a different route of cats, kind of how they moved from the wild, how they went from the wild, wild west. I'm just kidding. How they went from their wild communals to like these culturally charged cat videos with reels that live in our homes.
Exactly. These little tiny house cats that try really hard to be fierce, and you just look and you're just like, you're so cute. You're so cute. I have to squish you.
All right. So I want to kind of begin at the origins. And I don't know, where do you think the original cat-human relationship was found? Or how old do you think that is?
Old as dirt. As old as dirt.
Well, that's way older than what we are.
Honestly, I feel like, to me, my first thought when it comes to humans and cats, I don't think we would have created a major established relationship until we started farming and having a need for pest control, because I feel like for the longest time, cats were pest control.
So how many thousands of years do you think that would be?
How many thousands, girl? 5? I don't know.
All right, let's try 12.
Oh, okay. So I thought 5 was too much.
Yeah. So let's try roughly around 9,000 to 12,000 years ago.
Wow.
When people were gathering. Okay. And again, you were right on the spot with the gathering of the grain, and we were storing food. When we started collecting our grain, it also attracted rodents, and then rodents would attract wildcats. Over generations, the wildcats that kind of tolerated the humans, essentially, kind of stayed around, and their little human settlements prospered because the cats and the humans had this thing. That, it was a symbiosis type thing going on here. It's actually an interesting thing because the earliest archaeological evidence of human close cat relationship is a burial on the islands of Cyprus about 9,500 years ago, where human and cat were intentionally buried together. And It's on an
Oh
island.
my gosh, that is
Yeah.
so cute.
And it's on an island where there's no native cats. So this is suggesting that this cat was brought there. Cats were
They
intentionally
brought
brought
the
there.
cat with.
Yes. Yes.
Stop it, Karisa.
So yeah, it's actually the domestic cats we have today have a very close genetic similarity to those Near Eastern wild cats from that time frame, which explains why, cats have kind of remained and retained their independence, where dogs didn't quite do that with domestication.
Very much have not retained their independence.
Right. Right. Most people, when they think of ancient cats, they probably think of ancient Egypt, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I feel like that's where our brains most commonly go.
Right. Symbolic and religious. These ancient Egypt cats were sacred. They were associated with a goddess that has the lioness head that was a symbol of protection, fertility, and protection of the home. They were featured in a lot of temple rituals. And when we went to museums and you go to the Egyptian section, there are a lot of cat artwork. It's not like they're they're spending these bronze statues. They're utilizing a lot of time and energy to create these creatures so perfectly and so elegantly, as they were kind of
As
organized.
they should.
Yeah. Yeah, they were in their art and their media, but then they would be considered more of a religious worship type thing because of what they thought of them, which I'll get to that. Like today, cats are more like companions.
A media sensation.
Right. Well, in Egypt, they've retained kind of their symbolic roles of luck and like mystery and independence. You see it in art and media, but not as the religious worship as it was back then.
Yeah.
So their roles and stuff are a little different. Yes, legally in Egypt, social taboos and evidence of actual ritual protections, cats were like mummified. They had burial ceremonies. And if you harmed a cat or anything, you would be killed.
How dare you? Yes,
I think
we should do that now. You harm a cat, death.
There are grave consequences for somebody who offends or hurts a cat.
Don't offend the cat. You will die.
Yeah, and now today, the only protection comes from civil animal rights and welfare. So, and like the anti-cruelty statutes and things like that for pet care. But
I'm telling you, if we said death to those who harm cats, they would be left alone.
They were considered to be these connections to the spirit world almost, in a sense. They were held high in ancient Egypt, is what I was trying to say. So then as we move on to like classical Mediterranean Greece, like Rome areas, cats were less frequently worshipped and more often used for like practical partners. Like they were that symbiosis type thing, protecting grain in the stores and ships from vermin, and they led to this spread of cats throughout the Roman world. And it's kind of a cool fact that Roman writers sometimes contrasted cats with dogs, praising cats for their cleanliness compared to many dogs at the time.
They are the superior species.
Yeah, it's almost they get this whole like, I am better than you. It's no wonder they have that. They've been treated like royalty.
That is why they have a god complex.
Yes, they were literally treated like gods. So I mean, exactly. They were like, cats didn't usually reach the sacredness of like Egypt, but they were definitely held up high.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so if we moved north and looked at the Norse myth, the goddess of love and fertility is said to have had a chariot drawn by cats. Have you ever tried to herd cats?
Oh my gosh, how? You'd be like, we must go, and the cats would just stare at you.
Would be like, I'm so not going, and the other ones would be like, it's time for my nap.
I'm not going anywhere. Excuse you.
Yes. So that association tied cats to prosperity and household good fortune. And then as we move towards East Asia, especially Japan, cats developed distinct local identities. Like some of them were called beckoning cats. There's a statue called the beckoning cat, and you'll see it in shops. It becomes like a talisman of luck, and it's like considered, the one that's like the
little paw that goes up and down. Yeah.
This is like a business success thing. That is a Japanese folklore that gave us this little creature talisman type thing. But at the same time, as this beckoning cat for all these prosperity things and luck and business, they gave us the shape-shifting and vengeful cat spirits, kind of like the one you just told us about, that testify to that cats can both be protective and uncanny as far as like how they're going to have different personalities. It's interesting to see that cats throughout this time frame and like development have so many different personalities, because we know this cat can be super in your face, this one can be laying in your lap, this one can be whatever. But it seems kind of cool how you look at the different ways that they created these identities for cats that, I don't know, I feel like it's kind of cool how they became cultural icons, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, why wouldn't they? They're cats. They got toe beans and little noses and big attitudes.
Yes.
I feel like we gave them identities and the cats were like, all right.
Yes. It's very common to go through sources like in the medieval times in the Islamic world and find that they favored cats there. It was a very common thing to say that cats were described as these creatures from the outside world allowed into the inside, but it didn't instantly make them domesticated or house cats. They were just allowed to come into sanctuaries and keep it clean. They were considered these animals that protected those areas. It wasn't until like Europe when we started to let them in our houses a little bit more. In medieval Islamic world, many sources show that they were very favorable to cats, including Muhammad, the Prophet Muhammad himself, who was said to have his own cat named Musa. So, yeah,
good job, Muhammad.
Cats were allowed in the mosques and generally treated as clean and beneficial. But that contrasts with medieval Europe, because that was where the attitudes shifted between the appreciation for pest control and a darker superstitions. Okay. By the late Middle Ages, cats, particularly those black ones, like we were just talking about, became linked in popular imagination with witches and the devil. And we will go into this when we get into later down the road doing the Salem witch trials, because there is a stigma that kind of something with, and this is so weird, something about cat buttholes, and it's just strange. But anyways, the stigma helped fuel this violence towards cats during this period.
Look at my fancy butthole.
Like there is this whole thing about kissing a cat's butthole. Listen, it's disgusting.
Please don't.
But I mean, that's in the witch trials thing, so that's a whole nother,
I would not recommend.
That stigma kind of helped fuel the violence towards cats during this period of the witch hysteria, and social crisis. So that tragic ecological consequence gave that whole like argument that there was a reduction in a cat population, and it kind of exasperated the rodent-driven diseases and outbreaks that they had. So
that makes
shame on
sense.
them for being mean to cats, because that's how y'all got the plague.
Did you not learn from Egypt? Harm or offend the cat and you die.
Yeah, essentially.
That is what happened.
So now let's go to the Renaissance. Through the 19th century, there brought some changes, some mixed feelings and stuff. Also, there was some scientific curiosity and about how natural history kind of grew, and like we started getting some of the Enlightenment and stuff. In the 1800s, there was like where we had like these actual fancy formal cat shows began, where people started standardizing breeds of cats. Yes.
Oh my gosh, that's when the cat show started.
Yes, in the 1800s, when people were like getting all fancy and started they started like studying cats and creating new standardized breeds. This whole Victorian culture like loved pets, cats in particular, and they became associated with like the urban middle class households.
Yes, you're fancy if you have a cat.
Yep, so that's one reason the Victorian era paintings often show cats in that era changing from domestic economy made them, when you're changing to a domestic economy, it kept them smaller, so more low maintenance companions for cats.
Okay, but have you seen the Victorian paintings of cats?
Yes.
They're amazing.
Oh yeah, but I mean that's what's cool though. It's kind of like someone's finally like, you know what, maybe we should like bring the cats back. They kind of helped, save us, from all the rodents and stuff like that. But anyways, now we're in the 20th and 21st century, and cats just have taken on multiple roles all at once. They're not only companions and therapy animals, but they're like subjects of like behavioral and genetics research. Like they're huge figures in popular culture. So,
cats are amazing. Thank you very much.
Yep. And the internet has really kind of made cats transform into these global celebrities, essentially. I mean, iconic memes, viral videos, social media stars, like the Grumpy Cat. Have you ever seen that one?
Yes, the Grumpy Cat.
The Grumpy Cat, the loam. Yeah. That is like a multi-million-dollar pop culture like phenomenon, like for this Grumpy Cat. The cat's not even getting royalty.
They've also, I think the most recent, and I could be very wrong, but to my knowledge, most recent cat breed is the Munchkin cat. And I'm just going to use this as a quick PSA moment. Tiny legs? Yes, quick PSA. The Munchkin cat is adorable, but they got it to look like that through inbreeding. Yep. So it has significant issues with its cartilage. And it also has significant issues with arthritis as it gets older. So just by the way, they're adorable, but There's a reason they got them to look that way. It's through inbreeding. They're not healthy. So if you're going to get a munchkin cat, please do your research. Anyway, please continue.
Oh, no, you're good. The central thing is across time in in space of all the cat, versions. There's even like a cat version of the Sandman on Netflix, like the very last extra episode.
Oh, really? Yes.
Yeah. As these first beings. Like there's all kinds of lores, but humans were given this reason to kind of tolerate and cherish them because of, over these different situations with, starting to collect our grain and like protecting it. So whatever. But like these semi-aloof, mine enjoys her heating pad, nocturnal predatory behaviors made them very easy to project them as these divine, like they didn't have this fear. So they were divine protectors, shapeshifters, witch familiars, and these lucky talismans to the Japanese. And it's kind of interesting because if you think about it, they're very closely tied to wildcats, which means they kind of retain that internal instinct of being wild. But at the same time, if my cats ever stepped outside, they would die.
Oh, yeah. My cats are not for the outdoors.
No.
Mine are too posh for the outdoors.
Yes, which kind of contributes to their charm and kind of their also their challenge of being our companions. They're hard to tame.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I wanted to give you a few fun, quick cat surprising facts.
Yay.
So, and you can correct me if I'm wrong because you're the vet here, but I thought it would be kind of cool to be like, adult domestic cats can make more than 100 different sounds, while dogs can make like 10.
That is, yes. Cats learned and tailored their sounds to what humans would respond to the best. So their meow, the reason why it is what it is, why it sounds the way it is it is meant to mimic the sound of a human baby crying. If they meow to you, you're going to have the same response as you would to human baby crying, which is why when my cats meow, I wake up immediately at night.
It's like little tiny shapeshifters.
Like what?
Get us to wake. Yes.
Exactly.
All right. So then another fun fact is the domestic coat pattern called the tabby is ancient. Actual molecular studies show that the tabby pattern existed in wild cat population before domestication, and many cat breeds still carry that ancestral pattern. So that's kind of cool.
Not at all surprised, because that specific pattern would help a lot with camouflage. It's something very common that you see in wild cats right now, too.
Yes. The cat purr. Like, I don't know how we know this, but supposedly the cat purr isn't only a sign of, like, contentment, but purring frequencies, which are typically around 25 to 150 hertz, have been associated with bone and tissue healing in mammals, and some researchers, they have speculated that purring may provide health benefits to cats themselves.
For real?
Yeah, you should ask your dad about that.
I am going to ask my dad about that, and I will report back to you.
Yes.
Because also, I wouldn't be surprised. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, I'm like, how do they know what it's doing? I'm like, it always heals me when I feel the cat purring.
Yeah, when the cat's purring on you, are you kidding me?
Right?
That's an amazing feeling.
Yes. Now, little last one here. There are human cat burials dating back to, like I said, the Neolithic that suggest symbolic and emotional bonds were very early in our agricultural history, showing companionship. But, like I was saying, like anywhere from 9,500 to 12,000 years ago. But this can be maybe like the show of how, like, when I say this is talking about like the Garden of Eden before things were so at each other's throat, that there was a bond between animals and man before we decided to start killing everything. So.
And the interesting thing about that, I read something a while back, and then I think I also saw a video or whatever, but about a researcher or professor being asked what they believed the first sign of civilization to be. And they said the first sign of civilization that they've ever seen was the bone of an ancient human that had mended, which meant that that human was taken care of by its fellow humans to make sure that that break in the bone would mend. It was taken care of, it was fed. They didn't just say, okay, well, you're not going to make it, so you can just up and bleh, you know? And so I just think it's so adorable that another sign of civilization was when humans started burying each other. They started feeling, having a complex enough feeling that when a human would die, they would start burying that body to show show respect for the life of that human. And so the fact that they had enough of a bond or saw enough importance in this other animal that it was going to be buried with its human is freaking adorable, Karissa.
So you say that as if, so you speak in evolutionary terms as far as humans all of a sudden evolving to start burying each other, making beads and jewelry and different talismans to go into our burial grounds along with our animals or whatever. But there's also the theory that there was a time when humans were either not aging the same and weren't dying as fast. So they always knew they were supposed to bury a loved one, but they buried them differently. You know, there's always the burning and the ash, so you may not have the remnants of what you would say. The burial rites may have been completely different than the ones we are accustomed to underground or in mounds. So just because you're only seeing older mounds and other older burial rites doesn't mean that prior to that they did not have sacred rites of
something
burial.
that went with it.
They could have easily burned them to save space from having smells or attracting other predators.
Well, that is, I was going to say, you'd either bury a body to get it low enough that a predator won't get it, or if you're going to burn it, then you're preventing the predators from smelling the body, or even scavengers from smelling that body.
Right, correct. And so it doesn't mean that they didn't do proper burial rites. It just means they weren't burying them underground. Because it's very possible that burning the firewood may have become scarce, and they decided to find different ways to dispose their body and to mask the smell by either digging the hole down beneath the ground or start piling the mounds and stuff of the sacred rites and stuff.
And especially as family groups got larger too, you have,
unfortunately,
you have more people dying than just one off here and there. And so then, you know, if their choice was, okay, let's burn it, this, that, the other, whatever, it may have just been something that they weren't able to do anymore because it was like, okay, well, we have too many people. This is no longer sustainable. And so we're going to do blah, blah, blah.
In the Hindu cultures, you have the untouchables who are supposed to be the ones that take care of the dead and burn them outside the city. There are places outside the city walls where the remains are to be taken, or in places like that. Like they prepare the dead, and they're untouchable because once you've touched the dead, you're tarnished.
And just, okay.
Yeah. I mean, there's different ways to look at it. It's not like we can't just assume that people weren't burying them differently before that. You know what I mean? So, just my thoughts. Yeah. Okay. But if you have any other thoughts, do you know where to send them?
Thoughts or concerns?
Do you have any thoughts and prayers? You can send them directly to us at info@theparallaxpodcast.com.
Yes, please. We could use them.
Yes. You can also follow us on our social media, and you can
social media.
You can go to our website at parallaxpodcast.com and click on the two little icons. But until then, I am Karissa, and we are so thankful you are listening to us.
We're happy to be back. My name is Willow. Goodbye,